Oh my goodness, I'm blushing. Thank you, Ryan. And also thank you to Nellie for asking me to speak today. And it's really great to be here, and it's really great to see everybody in person. For everybody at home, I hope you can get to an in-person conference soon because it is amazing to be back. Everybody agree? Yes. So, I have some help from my friends today. Diamond is going to be helping me click my slides because I forgot my clicker because I haven't been at a conference in over a year. And Nick is going to be watching the polls at home to give me an update on what you all are saying about the tests. So let's go ahead and jump in. Does that sound good? All right. So let's go to the next slide, Diamond. Thank you. So this data is from our friends at the DMA UK Email Council. Their latest report says that email generates an average of 35 pounds for every pound that you spend. How many people are getting 35 pounds or $35 for every pound or dollar you spend? It's nice. You can do it. It's not easy. Next slide. This is actually from some work I did for a client this past holiday, where we were able to increase their year-over-year revenue for their holiday campaign by 64%, which we were really happy about because honestly, with COVID, we weren't really sure what was going to happen. So this was really exciting. And one of the ways that we were able to increase their year-over-year revenue, even in the middle of a pandemic, next slide, was by doing crazy A/B split testing. Now, conventional wisdom on holiday is, or anything, you test a little bit at the beginning maybe, but then you roll out with your best stuff. So when we started holiday, we said, we're going to test in September and October, and then we're not going to test anymore come November and December. We're just going to roll out. But our tests in September and October did so well that we didn't stop. We basically A/B split tested until the very end, and we got so many learnings. So give me a click, please, Diamond. Our average lift loss was 198%. So in some cases, we were like tripling revenue, which was beautiful. Our median lift loss was 73%. Also really, really good. Diamond, can you click for me, please? Our largest single test lift loss, 1,221%. 1,221%. This was for a test where we had this email that had product images and bullet pointed notes about each product, which was very unusual for this client. Most of the emails were just very image heavy. So we actually tested taking those bullet points out to make it more like their other emails. Huge bump. People didn't want to read. They wanted just to see the images. That was enough. Diamond, give me one more click on this slide, please. Another significant single test lift loss we did was a subject line test. So the control, which they had used the previous year, because we started with what they had used in 2019, had a teaser subject line. It was something like, guess what the hot new product for holiday is? Well, we tested against that, this very straightforward subject line, which was buffalo plaid is the hot thing for holiday this year. We got a 730% lift in revenue per email just by changing the subject line. It's really interesting because people always try to make their subject lines kind of cutesy, and I get that, I do. But I got to tell you, sometimes being straightforward is the way to go. So these are just a sample of some of the results we got. I'm also kind of competitive, if anyone knows me, and I'm kind of an email geek, so I really jam on this stuff. So give me another click, Diamond. So I thought what we'd do today is I thought I would take you through 6 A/B split tests that I've done over the past year or two and share with you the creative or the information, and then ask the audience here in Miami, as well as the audience at home, to take a guess about which test won, hence the name of the presentation. Sound good? Who thinks they're a testing maven and can get them all right? All right. Okay. So this particular test is for a sign-up page. This was for an e-commerce company. They actually sold like health supplements. And so they had their email sign-up down here at the bottom below the fold on the right. The rest of the page was filled with all sorts of things to sell product. When I was talking to them, they were very concerned because one of my things is move it up above the fold. They were concerned that it would negatively impact revenue. But here's the thing. Many people are not going to be ready to buy the first time they visit your website. So if they're not ready to buy, the next best thing they can do for you is give you their email address. Because if they give you their email address, you can reach out to them again and hopefully bring them back to the site. So although it's not necessarily the primary focus of any website, getting that email address should definitely be the secondary focus of every website. So this is the control. It was right there below the fold. Diamond, can you give me a click? And another click. Thank you. So what we did is we literally just moved it. We took this column and we simply moved that sign up to the top right so it was above the fold. Very old school traditional place for an email sign up. Oh, give me one more click, Diamond. So, one more click, Diamond. So, this is our first poll. Which version generated the highest list growth? Do you think it was the control on the right, where it's down in the bottom right, or was it the test where it's above the fold on the right? What do the folks here in Miami think? Who thinks control? Who thinks test? I love it. It's unanimous. We have a bunch of email geeks here. I feel right at home. Nick, do we haven't even taken the poll? If you're following along at home, you should see the poll for this one. Okay. So, Alex. And everybody else? All right. So should I go with the answer or should I just hang out for a minute? All right. So everyone in the room thought it was above the fold. Does anyone want to give me a percentage that it boosted list growth for bonus points? 30. 200. 150. Boy, you guys have faith in me. All right, Diamond, can you give me one more click? And the answer is above the fold and one more click, 30%. I don't think Ryan would cheat, would he? So yeah, 30%, it's not 1,000%, but all we did was move this above the fold. We didn't make any changes to the copy. We didn't add any benefits. We didn't do anything else. It was just a simple move. How expensive was it to move that to the top? Was that like big lift, really costly? How much time did it take to move it to the top? Days, weeks, years? Yeah, we just called the IT people and said, flip it. Right. So when you can make a small change like that and get a 30% increase in your list growth, basically, I was going to say overnight, but it's actually just immediately, because it starts immediately. That's a change worth making. And if you can make a small change like this 3 or 4 times, which is very possible, you start tweaking the copy, you start A/B split testing, if you can get a 30% lift 3 or 4 times, 3 times, all of a sudden you've doubled your list growth because you're at 100%. So don't get me wrong, I love the ones that are like 1,000% increase, but even if it's 10 or 20%, if you can do little 10 or 20% increases a couple times, all of a sudden you're talking real lifts. All right, you guys ready for another one? You're batting 1,000 so far here in the room. Good job. All right, Diamond, can you give me the next slide? All right. This is another e-commerce company. This is B2C. So this is actually the page that you would land on when you said you wanted to sign up for their newsletter. Has anyone ever signed up for a newsletter? Yeah. So the way that this came about, interestingly enough, is the list growth was low. And so I took a look at the Google Analytics to see what was happening. It was fascinating because people would click through to this page, and then they would click through to this page, and then they would click through to this page. And I was like, how does that happen? And then I realized that this newsletter sign-up banner, which is what was all over the site, was also on this page. So when they landed here, right? Does that make sense? I just clicked on that banner to get to the newsletter sign up, and I'm on a page where there's a banner for me to click to get to the newsletter sign up. Kind of not making sense. Yeah. So that's what we had. The other thing we had, so the yellow ones, the newsletter sign up. This was a banner ad driving visitors someplace else. The purple on here are links to visit other areas on the site. So go to other areas on the site. The blue are just to the footer and the header. And then the green are actually the things that have to do with the newsletter itself, which is actually what we're here for, right? So very busy. So let me show you what we did to test against this. Diamond, can you give me 2 clicks, please? Thank you. So this is the revise that we used for the test. Can anybody see what did I do here? What differences do you see from the control? Got rid of the banner, yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I had a theory on the control. When you went to that page, you saw this big picture that was the newsletter logo, except that they hadn't subscribed to the newsletter yet, so they didn't know it was the newsletter logo, And then all of the sign-up fields, you can just barely see them, were all below the fold on this page. So my theory is that's why people were clicking there and then clicking on the banner and then clicking on the banner, because they didn't think they got to the page they were intended to get to. So basically, I just moved everything above the fold, and I took out anything that would detract from the task at hand, which is getting them to sign up for a newsletter. Because I want my people to be focused. If you tell me you want to sign up for my newsletter, I don't want to put anything in the way of you doing that. So, based on this, give me one more click, please, Diamond. Thank you. And give me one more click. Perfect. So based on this, which one do we think generated the highest list growth for this client? Was it the control, or what I call the busy page? Or was it the test version, which I call the more focused page? What do folks here in Miami think? How many people think test? Anybody think control? I love this. You guys are like one mind. All right, can you give me another click, Diamond? Yes! You guys are 2 for 2. Woohoo! Extra credit, how much? How much was the lift? 20, 30, 50? I don't even remember. I have to ask. Diamond, click it for me. Let's show us. Yeah. So we increased list growth more than 4 times. Do you think the client was happy with that? Yeah. Now it's funny because whenever you do things with list growth, you're actually not done here. Because it's just as important as getting those people on your list? Seeing how they perform, right? Because if I increased list growth by 4 times, but those new names never opened or clicked on an email, is there value? Probably not, or very little. So we watched it, and we found that the people who got on with the new page were just as likely to open and click, in fact, a little more likely to engage with the emails than the people who were previously on the list. So again, was this a super expensive change? Nope. Took a little longer than the other one, but not that long. So think about things like this. Whenever I optimize, I try to understand what's going on, and then I try to figure out why, and then I try to figure out how I can change that person's behavior. Because that's really what we're doing. We're changing behavior because we're making it easier for them. Awesome. All right, Team Miami's 2 for 2. You ready to go on to the next one? Feeling confident? Okay. Diamond, can you give me the next slide, please? This is a subject line test. Can anyone tell me why everybody tests? Well, this is a pre-header text. But can anyone tell me why people do like subject line tests and pre-header tests? What? For opens. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Yes? It's easy. Right. And it's simple. I can't tell you how many times I get a call. Someone says, hey, Jeanne, I'm so glad I caught you because the email goes in 5 minutes and we want to do a subject line test. Can you give me a subject line? And I'm like, can you tell me what the email's about? But yeah, it's really easy. Now it's interesting though, because a lot of people do subject line and pre-header text for open rates. Here's one thing I found in my experience though. Just because it generates more of an open doesn't mean that lift is going to go down the line into conversions or revenue or whatever your actual goal is. So if you notice, have I goaled to opens or clicks? Well, we haven't talked email. It's all been landing page stuff, but I don't really goal to opens or clicks ever when I do testing. I want to goal to conversions or revenue or something that's going to move the bottom line. Because if I send you a subject line that says you've won a brand new Jaguar, how many people are going to open it? And then if you open it, it goes, oh, sorry, no. You're not going to click on anything. So that's why I don't goal to those things. I don't goal to diagnostic. I goal to business metrics. All right, so this was another e-commerce company. This is a really cool company I worked with. They sell things for veterans. So they have a lot of items for veterans, and a lot of them are customized. And veterans not only like to put their name on it, but like to put, like for instance, my nephew was in the Navy. He was on the USS Louisville. So they like to customize it with like the name of their submarine or their ship or their platoon or something. So they do a lot of this work. It's a really cool company. So the subject line was, time is running out on our best-selling custom items. And then the control pre-header text. Does everybody know what pre-header text is? It appears right after the subject line in Gmail. It appears right below it if you're using Outlook or some of the other ones. So it's pretty important. It's sort of like a second chance to get eyeballs. The control pre-header text was, time is running out on our custom items. Does that strike anyone maybe a little redundant? A lot redundant. So that was my theory. Do me a favor, Diamond, give me a click. So again, going through and taking a look at this, I thought, they're missing a lot of what I think are the key components here. So they're saying custom items, and that's nice, but personalized, I think, is a word that more lay people understand, right? And there's nothing in either of those subject lines or either of those controls about veterans, which is really the point of this all. So we made the pre-header text, great personalized gifts for veterans. I think it was supposed to be an S. I think I typed it wrong when I put it on the slide. Great personalized gifts for veterans was our test pre-header. So give me one more click, Diamond. So looking at the control pre-header text following that subject line versus the test pre-header text following that same subject line, which one do we think did better? Test? Test? All right. Anyone want to give me a lift number for extra credit? 50%? Okay, 50, 99, 75, 80. All right, give me one more click. Let's see which one won. Yes! You guys are 3 for 3. There. Diamond, can you give me one more click and we'll see what the percentage lift was? 96%. Yeah. Needless to say, the client was kind of happy. Hey, we doubled your we almost doubled your revenue. Didn't quite double it, but yeah. I don't know if you guys are familiar with revenue per email. It is like my favorite metric ever. What's that game you play? Marry them, sleep with them, kill them, or something? Like that would be my Marriott. I would marry RPE. Because it's just a great number. So it's what I usually use. It's so easy to calculate. Revenue divided by the number of emails that you sent, revenue per email. Sometimes if the number's really small, I do it revenue per 1,000 emails, and that gets us a bigger number, which is a little easier to look at. But A/B split testing for me, when you're dealing with anything that's revenue, that is the best thing to use. You don't have to ask anybody for anything. You don't have to get, what's the overhead cost? How much do you pay the staff? Don't need to worry about any of that. Awesome. 3 for 3. Let's see if we can keep that rolling. Diamond, can you give me the next slide? All right, this one's a little blurry. It's not your eyes. So this is a rich text offer test. So this was, I live in Washington, D.C., so we have a lot of associations. So I work with a lot of association clients, a lot of, National Education Association, AARP, American Institute of Architects, a lot of groups like that. So this was one of those membership organizations. This was an email they sent, and basically the red stuff is all image, and the green stuff is rich text. So here's the thing about them, it was really interesting. They had commissioned their own font. Does anybody have their own font? Keith does. Awesome.
Fonts are cool.
Fonts are cool. Well, this was a very cool font. And they had commissioned it and paid for it, and it was a proprietary font. And I remember, because I was consulting with them, I had to download it to my computer so that when they sent me stuff, it would show up in that font, because since it's a proprietary font, it's not on everybody's computer, right? So one of their big things with their email was everything in this email has to be in that proprietary font. So that's why all these things are images, because they wanted to make sure that it would always show up as that proprietary font, always, always, part of their branding. I said, okay, but the trouble is that if images are blocked, what's going to happen to all these images, all this red? It's just going to be blank, right? So you're not really going to have anything there. So I convinced them to let me try a test. Diamond, give me a click. Thank you. And so we kept the image at the top, the headline, but I said, please, please, just give me the offer. Just let me put the offer in rich text, not in your proprietary font. Please. And we did it there and we did it down here. And that's literally the only difference between these two emails. And between you and I, this was such a small difference because they wouldn't give me the headline. I was like, I don't even know if this is going to work, man. Right? Like, is there even enough here? Because really, the headline's what I wanted. So give me one more click, Diamond. So there's our test. Offers rich text with an internet-friendly font so that everyone would have it on their computer. What do we think won? Has anybody think control? Just for fun? All right. All right. Anyone want to give me a number? What kind of a lift did we get? Oh, give me one more click, Diamond. I forgot to put the poll question up. What version generated the highest conversion rate? So everyone said test except for Ryan, who said control. Because you think I'm tricky and I would throw one of those in.
I think you're tricky.
I am tricky. Diamond, tell us what the answer is. Test. All right. Did you guys give me numbers? How much do we think it lifted the conversion rate? 50? 25? 200. Wow. All right. Give us a click, Diamond. 95%. So we nearly doubled the number of people who signed up for this member program. So again, was the client happy? They were. Honestly, they were kind of bummed because they couldn't believe that their proprietary font didn't. I just don't understand. It's so much prettier than that other font. And I said, yes, but no one can see it when it's part of an image. Yeah, nobody cares. They want to read it. Cool. 4 for 4, except for Ryan. That's okay. All right. I got 2 more. You guys still game? Let's go. All right, Diamond, give us the next one. Oh, this is one of my favorites. So this is actually from the holiday campaign that I did for that client that I showed you. So they had a control. There was a header, and then it had an image, had copy, it had call to action buttons, and it had 2 product blocks down here. So 2 products were featured in this email. This image was actually the cover of one of their catalogs. So this is an email they sent a lot. Give me another click, please, Diamond. So I said, let's do a test. We've only got 2 products in here. Let's put 4 products in, and let's see if we can sell more stuff with more products, right? Alex is on board. Thank you, Alex. Totally, right? And then literally like a day before we were supposed to mail, one of the higher ups comes in and goes, wait. No, that's the email we used last Christmas. But since then, we've added a new email. Diamond, give me a click. Oh, and 2 more clicks, please. Thank you. One more click. There we go. And he said, we changed that up. Now, this is the email that we've been using in 2020. It's got this big, big image at the top. And then we moved the call to action buttons down and copy there, and it's still got the 2 products. So don't mail this. That's old. Mail this. And I said, did you test into that new one? And they said, it's prettier. It's pretty. I don't know about you. I will take makes more money over prettier any day. Ugly and makes more money over pretty and makes less money. I'm with ugly and more money. So I said, well, instead of swapping this out, just for laughs, why don't we just mail all 3 and just see how they do? We'll just see how they do. And they said, okay. So we mailed all 3. Give me a click diamond. This one is a little more difficult because there's actually 3 choices. So of these 3, the updated 2019 with 2 product blocks, the test with 4 product blocks based on this one, or the new 2020 with the large image at the top, which do we think generated the highest revenue per email? All right, test 1. Does anybody think test 2? I know, I need to not give it away. Does anyone think control? All right, let's see. Give me a click, Diamond, to see which one won. Ding, ding, ding. Yep, test number 1 with the 4 product blocks and the old style. Does anyone want to give me a guess at how much the revenue per email increased on that test number 1? 100%, 95. I love that. All right, give me 2 clicks, Diamond. So this is our base RPE. The test 2 increased RPE by 16%. Give me another click, please, Diamond. So they made the change from this to that at the start of 2020, and they were mailing it roughly once a month. So how much money did they leave on the table by not A/B split testing into it? That stuff kills me. Yeah. Give me one more click, Diamond. Having some rich text at the top of an email usually beats just an image almost every time. Now, every time I say that, the next time I test it, it loses. But almost every time, you're better to have rich text up there than just a big image. Yeah. No, because it's super small. And if you're an Outlook user, Outlook puts words in front of your alt text that say something like, "We disabled this image because we were afraid it would blow up your computer. Here's your alt text." Right? Nobody gets past that first blow up your computer. It doesn't really say blow up your computer, but it's something to that effect, right? So yeah, I don't find alt tags being a good substitute. Now that said, does anyone know, we're actually having a session on this during EIS later this month. Does anyone know a really good reason to use alt tags? Yeah, accessibility. So for there, yes, always use alt tags so that if someone is vision impaired and they're working with an email, that there's something that can be read to them so they know what it is. But yeah. One more note on this. When we originally did this test, this is actually supposed to be a lead generator. So one of these calls to action is click through and get some free samples so you can see if you would like to order this for your staff, for your customers, for your trade show. And so initially they said, well, really, your KPI here, your key performance indicator, should be the leads, not the revenue. And I said, I'm still a bigger fan of revenue than I am of leads, but let's take a look at it. So we looked at it, and literally, this one and this one generated like almost exactly the same amount of leads. It's just that this one also generated more money. So I understand that. I was kind of lucky when they first brought that up. I'm like, darn, I hope it generated enough leads. But it did. All right, one more left. We feeling lucky? Okay, Diamond, give me another click, please. Look, it's a real email. So this actually, that date is wrong. This was actually done like 2 weeks ago. This was not 2020, this was 2021. So one thing that we've been playing with my client Positive Promotions is personalization. Has anyone ever gotten an email with their name in it? Yeah. So we've done a lot of testing. This is the control. So this is the email that they've always sent. This is I think we call it a jotter. So it's like a little notepad with a pen that you can buy, and you can customize it. It says your imprint here to show that you can put your company name or your school name on it. Do me a favor, give me 2 clicks, please, Diamond. So this is exactly the same email, although actually it's kind of not. All right, I don't know why that is, but what we've done here is we've actually personalized it. So the recipient, when they open it, they will see their company name and they will see the phone number. So give me another click, Diamond. So we've got the control, which is not personalized, it's just generic, and we have the test, which is personalized with the actual recipient's company name. Which test won? Give me one more click, Diamond. Thank you. Test? Test? All right. I think everyone says test. So give me another click, Diamond. Test. Anyone want to guess how much? 1,000,000%? 75. 30. All right. Give me another click, Diamond. 96. And then when we looked into why that variance was, we got a 55% lift in orders. So the average order value was higher, but there were also just more orders, which the client likes to see more orders. That's really good. One note on this. We've been doing a lot of personalization testing, and it doesn't always win, which is a little crazy, right? Because we were sort of taught, like, conventional wisdom is it always wins. So this was actually the most successful personalization test we did. We're still playing with it, but nothing has been anywhere near this successful, and in some cases the personalization is actually lost. So we're trying to figure out what that means. And that's kind of the fun part too, right? When something goes completely against everything you would believe. Because I don't know about you, I will never vote against personalization. Now, sometimes when I looked at it, what was done, because sometimes I wasn't involved in crafting the test, there was a reason for that it didn't work. But yeah, so that is why we test. Because even though we think it should work, and it always usually works, there's that one time. And that matters, though, because you want to make sure you get what your audience is going to respond to. So do me a favor, give me another click, please, Diamond. So before I leave you, I wanted to give you some additional resources. Give me one more click, Diamond. Shameless plug. I have a blog, and I have a site that's about to be redesigned. I'm really excited. And a free newsletter. I'm also GM, as Ryan said, of Only Influencers. So feel free to check us out. It's a community of email geeks, kind of like we have here in this room today, and online. So if you're not a member of OI, see about joining us. And then, again, our summit is coming up at the end of the month on June 17th. So I would love to see you there. One more click. Thank you so much.
I think we're going to take some questions. Yeah, round of applause for Jeanne.
Thank you for playing along.
Yes.
This doesn't go well when people don't play along.
It's pretty boring.
Been there, done that, death.
Yeah, sure. Here, hold on.
I'm interested to know your thought on video inside emails.
Ooh. There is, so a couple of years ago, a friend of ours, David Daniels, declared it the year of video and email. Does anyone remember that? I think it was 10 years ago now.
It was 10 years ago.
Maybe more. I think he was wrong. I think he got a little early. I've been playing with video and email. If it's done right, it can have a really dramatic positive impact. But the problem is making sure that all your ducks in a row and you're doing it right. And there's a lot coming down the lane now. So for instance, probably all of us who have done video and email, you click on a screenshot, you go to a landing page where the video plays. You got to make sure that there's a persistent call to action on that page. I've seen so many videos where, well, it's a 3-minute video, and if they get to the end, there's a call to action, and you're just like, that's not how it's done. There's a lot of new technology out there now that's letting you actually embed video, and I actually have teed up with a client to test that. But I do think that we are about to come into the year of video and email finally, about 10 or 12 years after Daniel's projected it.
That I remember email, like video and email or some of the real-time stuff, there's a law of diminishing return, right? If you do video and email every week, you'll have a big boost when you do it initially, and then people get used to it, right? So it's about keeping the email fresh.
Yes.
Right? Which you
Right.
talk a lot about is make sure that the context fits the message. So I
Yeah.
think that really has to be considered. But I love video and email. I did
Yeah. So quick story. It was probably 15 years ago when I was when I was season ticket holder for the Washington football team. And I got a video that said, Coach Joe Gibbs is going to tell you about what's coming up this season. And I thought, oh, this is so awesome. And it was like, he has a lot of exciting things planned. It's going to be a great year. And I was like, this is so awesome. And I clicked to play the video, and I went to the landing page, and he said, hi, this is Coach Joe Gibbs. I've got a lot of exciting things planned for this year. It's going to be a great year. See you there. And that was it. The transcript of the video was in the email. That was a fail. So you don't ever want to do something like that. That's what I mean about video. It's hard to do it well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good question.
All right, Keith.
Because no thought is truly unique. I'm reading from the chat here. All right, Jeanne. Mike asks, have you seen any significant advances in engagement leveraging AMP technology? And I'm
AMP
sure Marcel
technology.
over at Verizon would really like to hear this answer. Okay? No pressure.
No pressure. AMP is really interesting. So last year at the Email Innovation Summit, we actually had a session that we called Point Counterpoint, AMP for Email. So we had two people debating it, Dr. Matthew Dunn on one side and April Mullen from SparkPost on the other side. And Matthew's point was the security risks are too high, and we shouldn't be dabbling here. And I don't know, you know all the ransomware stuff that we're hearing about recently? Yeah, I had a client that had a ransomware attack 2 weeks ago. So this is becoming more prevalent. And so that was his side, and then April's side was, but there's all these cool things that you can do with it. So we had this whole session. It was really interesting, and then we had the audience vote. I would say that right now I'm not huge in on AMP. I'm sort of cautiously watching it. I think that there are a lot of things that can be done with it. The thing is, a lot of the things that it can do, you can use other tactics and technology to do that potentially has less security issues. So I'm not all in on AMP just yet. I'm sort of cautiously watching. The other thing is, it's really interesting because we've always used email as a device to get to a landing page, and typically the conversion happens, right? So the idea of AMP is it's pulling that conversion into the email. Not a bad idea, perhaps. But I remember years ago when I was consulting for Verizon, they sent me this email that they were sending, and I was just blown over. It was pages and pages and pages. And I said, you're sending an email to do a website's job. And that's my concern with AMP. Are we going to start creating emails that are like a website and sending them out? But I'm cautiously watching it, but I'm not there yet. But I'm not a big bandwagon. I don't jump on things right away. I'm kind of cautious. But good question.
Any other questions in the room? Or now, Keith, you are a roving reporter for the chat online. Nice. All right. We've got time for one more question. Let's see. I don't see one. Okay. Any other questions from in the room? All right. Another round of applause for Jeanne. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.